Well, good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I am David Elkis, president of TBLOA. On behalf of the TBLOA board, our chief trainer, Tom Fitzsimons, and the entire TBLOA training committee, I want to welcome you to Returning Officials Training Session 1 for 2026. Happy New Year, everybody. Tom has asked me to take everybody through tonight's training because he's stuck at the office. It's the fourth business day of the year, and apparently they're busy closing last year. So he's a little tied up tonight. So again, if your name in Zoom does not match, please let me know and we'll get you squared away here with the correct name so that the attendance taker gives you proper credit. And without further ado, let me jump into our slides for this evening. Everybody should see TBLOA Annual Training 2026 Session 1. Is that correct? For those of you who are on video, please nod. Thank you. Okay, so as we begin tonight's session, we're going to do a little hello. We've already done that. We're going to go through some administration. We're going to talk about uniforms. We've got a lot of questions about uniforms this year, so we're going to go through that. We're going to talk about JLA cards. Then we're going to get into the meat of tonight's presentation, the 2026 rule changes propagated by NFHS. And then we'll go into a brief bit about Arbiter, reminding everybody about things we need to do in Arbiter to make it easier on our assigners and our administration in general, especially for those of us who use Arbiter pay like TBLOA. You want to get paid in a timely fashion. There's some things we want to make sure that Arbiter is squared away for. All right, so first up, our TBLOA training committee. Tom Fitzsimons is our chief trainer. And then you can see the 8 members of our training committee here. If you have questions after the session, you can reach out to any one of us. We're happy to answer questions all season long, but try to do it at a reasonable hour. We understand games end late, but try to get us before 11 if possible. I know some of these guys are early to bed guys. I'm up, they're not. So if you need to reach somebody at 10:30, I'm probably the best bet. Reminder, everybody is required to be a USA Lacrosse member and have a current membership. If you want to be certified by USA Lacrosse for this year, there are certain benefits to that. Specifically, you get better insurance and better reimbursement. God forbid you're hurt. But we prefer that everybody be certified for both youth and high school, especially if you want to work our tournaments. And we want to make sure that you're certified for the level that we assign you. So to that end, you don't have to retake the rules course if you have already taken it at some point, anytime in the past. But you do have to take this year's rules exam, both youth and high school, preferably, if you're a high school level official. For guys who only do youth, then you just need to take the youth exam. And you have to take the 2026 professional development course. Those passing a rules exam and taking the professional development course are required for annual certification by USA Lacrosse. The professional development course counts for both the USA Lacrosse certification and the FHSAA certification. If you don't take it as part of your USA Lacrosse certification, you will be forced to take it by the FHSAA. If you do take it as part of your USA Lacrosse certification, before you finish your FHSAA certification, you do get credit for it, so you don't have to take it twice. So that's a bonus. You'll find that under my account when you log into USA Lacrosse, under my transcript, you look for the 2026 boys certification. You'll find that information. Everybody who is registered with FHSAA should have received an email from FHSAA today outlining the instructions and where to find the FHSAA exam for 2026. What they don't tell you is in order to take the exam, you have to sit through over 2.5 hours of video. So do not expect to do it all in one session, unless you've got a whole lot of time on your hands. There are 5 or 6 videos, of which professional development is one. And like I said, you get credit for that if you've taken it already. You have to go through all of the videos, and they are sequential. Video 3 will not unlock until 1 and 2 are unlocked, and so forth. So even though professional development is somewhere down the line, it doesn't unlock anything until all of the prior ones are unlocked. So they do make you do them sequentially. A couple of them are close to an hour long. What it does say is they have to play to their completion. Nothing says you have to stay in the chair the entire time it's playing, but the content is good, and I encourage you to take advantage of the FHSAA's demand there. I'm going to move on quickly. For those of you who are interested, TBLOA is on social media, both on Facebook and X. We are at TBLaxRefs. Similarly, we're on YouTube at TBLaxRefs. This video tonight will be posted to YouTube. If you subscribe to our channel on YouTube, you'll know every time we post a video. It'll send you an email. If you're on Facebook, we have a training group on Facebook where we post situations that guys have run into that may or may not have been challenging to adjudicate, and we'll go through some of that. Tom posts there regularly during the season. Once you become a member of the TBLOA training committee, you get automatic approval into the National Men's Game Lacrosse Officials Group. Otherwise, you have to go through an application process to get in that group. But if you're a member of TBLOA training, your approval is automatic and you don't require admin approval to enter that other group. The second group has about 1,100 members across the country. And again, lots of discussion about situations, about rules. Some guys get really into the nitty gritty of the rules. Like this rule's missing a comma. Didn't they need to put a comma here? That kind of stuff. So it gets pretty detailed, but a lot of good conversation in that group. If you're looking for TBLOA swag, like the shirt I'm wearing here, you can find that at our swag shop at swagshop.tbloa.org. This year, the FHSAA exam closes the first week of the regular season. So if you haven't passed the exam by the end of the first week of the season, your FHSAA schedule gets pulled until the second window opens. So we'll be doing test prep on 2-4, but I want to make sure that everybody is aware that that is going to happen. I don't set the dates from FHSAA. Originally, they said they were going to close the test before the season started, and they've changed that, so we have a little bit more time. But just remember, you have to pass the test with at least a score of 80 to be able to work varsity competition. Okay, uniforms. Everybody knows that uniforms are specified in Rule 252. This year, the NFHS rulebook does not say 1-inch stripes anymore. Last year, following the 2025 season, the officials committee met via Zoom for FHSAA, and Carrie Ottaviani, who was the representative for the northern half of the state, and I, as the representative of the southern half of the state, proposed that FHSAA allow boys lacrosse officials to wear 2-inch stripes instead of 1-inch stripes on the field this year. The proposal was to phase it in rather than mandate it, and that proposal was approved. The way it is written, however, is that 1-inch stripes are still the default, and they are the standard. And if you want to wear 2-inch stripes, the entire crew must match. So the whole crew has to have 2-inch stripes in order to wear 2-inch stripes for a game. No mismatched crews. Two of the associations in the state, South Florida and South Gulf, have elected to go exclusively to 2-inch stripes for high school. TBLOA and FLOA have not. I can't speak for First Coast because I haven't gotten back from them, nor from Pensacola, Treasure Coast, or Mid-Coast. But the TBLOA approach will be, we are 1-inch stripe for high school lacrosse. If your crew chief contacts you and says, hey, do you have 2-inch stripes? And all three of you agree that, yes, we all have 2-inch stripes and we want to wear 2-inch stripes for a particular game, that is acceptable. However, the crew chief must send me a communication that the entire crew is wearing 2-inch stripes for that particular game, and that he has already communicated with everybody and everybody's on board. I need to know about it in advance. And if there is a mismatch come game time, the entire crew gets fined. That was a board decision. So here, that's how that's going to go. 1-inch stripes are our default. If you want to wear 2-inch stripes, as long as all three of you have it and the crew chief has communicated with me, that's fine. South Gulf is moving to 2-inch stripes. If you're doing a game for South Gulf, you'll be in 2-inch stripes for high school games. I hope that clears some things up. We also changed some things in the FHSAA manual to conform with what we're already doing on the field. So no more striped jackets. If you're going to wear a jacket on the field, it's going to be a black jacket, which is what we've always done. Similarly, we wanted to make sure that that was We didn't want to have guys get fined by FHSA for wearing a black jacket when their manual said something different. So we had that change put in this year as well. Back to equipment, same as it always was, right? 2 whistles, 2 flags, scorecard, pencil, coin, tape measure, and a 20-second timer. You must have a timer if you're going to work high school games. I've been to too many high school level games where guys do not have a timer. You must have one. They're available. They're available all over the place. Shameless plug, Don Stripes has them cheaper than anybody else, but you can get a timer for a reasonable price. Please go get yourself a timer if you don't have one. I'm not saying you have to get them from Don Stripes. You'll just pay more if you get them somewhere else. You don't have to go buy a fancy coin. You can go to the bank and get a 50-cent piece. Hey, it only costs you 50 cents. And if times get tough, you can always spend it and get another one later. But you don't have to go out and spend a fortune on a coin. All right, Jessica Lunsford. Everybody must have a Jessica Lunsford Act badge that is current, that does not expire before the season is over. I got an email from the athletic director of Pinellas County Schools, who today told me that every school in Pinellas County will be checking JLA badges upon entry to the complex. So you must have your badge if you work at any of the Pinellas County public schools. So you must have it on your person when you enter the facility. So please make sure that you have your badge in your bag when you go to the game. I see I did have a question. 2-inch stripes, yes, must have an FHSAA logo and it must be above the pocket. It's basically the football shirt that FHSAA uses. So if you have a football shirt for FHSAA, you can use that one. I hope that answered that question. Take a picture of your JLA card and keep it on your phone. God forbid you forget your contractor badge and you end up at a Pinellas County school. You can pull up your phone and see, I have a badge. It's right here. So make sure you have your badges. If you don't have a badge, if your badge is expiring before May 1st of 2026, you need to get in touch with Mike Gunther. I don't know why it still says Gunter in there, typo. Mike is submitting all of the JLA badge requests on the 20th of this month. So if you have not sent it in yet, you still have a little bit of time. If you have sent it in, he's holding him to submit them all at once until the 20th. It's still $93. They're still good for 5 years. And you'll pay for that online through Field Print. But Mike and his assistant, Scott Davey, will be handling that process for us. So please, if you need a badge, let's make sure we get that taken care of sooner rather than later. It takes a couple of weeks and you want to have the badge back before the start of the season. Okay, moving on. Oh, wait, sorry, there's a question. Can someone register for FHSAA without a JLA card? Yes, you can. During the registration process, they ask you for the expiration date of your JLA badge, and I think you're able to skip it and leave it blank. However, you will end up having to take a photo of your JLA badge and send it to FHSAA before they clear you to do games. So you can register now, but it will be an issue. They'll hold it up sort of before they clear you to actually do games. All right, we always talk about taking care of your crew. It was the late Gordon Corsetti's motto. And for some of us, it's not just a slogan. It's, we live it every day, and we hope you do too. And there are 4 ways in which you can take care of your crew. The 4 Ps. We're going to go through them right now. Preparation. Be up to date on the rules. Be familiar with the field and the teams that you're working with, especially if you've been around been around that field a few times and you know of certain pitfalls, like the corner at Wiregrass Ranch that sort of falls off. You want to make sure that you don't run out to the end line down to the pylon because you might fall. Stay inside the pylon a bit. Things like that. Know your partners. Get to know your partners. And then if you're the umpire, could you take over that game for the R? God forbid something happened to the R. Be prepared. Punctuality is second. Now, that should be self-explanatory, but it isn't. Your crew chief will tell you what time he requests that you arrive at the game site for pregame. Remember that up here at TBLOA, our contracts call for schools to give us a changing room. When the crew chief confirms the game with the school, he should ask, where will our changing room be? And they'll tell you. When the crew chief gets back with the crew, here's where our changing room will be. There are a couple of schools that won't have it, but almost all of the rest do. So you can say, arrive half dressed, we're going to dress in this room, or we're just going to change. But whenever he says to be there, that's when you want to be there. You can have a pregame discussion, review the rules, discuss anything you know about the coaches, specific field concerns, right? You do a game at plant at 5 o'clock as the sun is going down, and you're the single or the trail. When the ball's down at the west end of the field, that sun is right in your eyes. It's very difficult to see. So you want to make sure you adjust. If you need to bring sunglasses to that particular, have them in your bag. But if you need to bring sunglasses out to the field that day because of the field conditions, you want to be prepared for that. If there are certain things that the R particularly wants, maybe he wants lead to always take the whistle on a shot out of bounds right behind the lead rather than having the trail take it, which would be the normal mechanic. You guys can talk about it. Point to whatever the R wants in that case. We usually recommend that for over and back, the call is yes, yes, no, no, but some guys prefer hot. I'm not a big fan of that one, but whatever your crew chief wants that day, let's try and implement it. Let's get your questions answered and get in the proper mindset during the pregame, right? The TBLOA training committee recommends that everybody arrive 60 minutes to 75 minutes before game time, not 30 minutes and we'll be on the field 20 minutes before the game. You've had a full day at work, or maybe you didn't, and maybe you had a horrible traffic and you need to get in the right frame of mind. Have some time. Go through pregame with your crew. And then 30 minutes before game, that's when you walk out onto the field. With the recent rule changes, field review has a greater emphasis, right? We have to make sure that the sidelines are contiguous, the end lines are contiguous, that the center line is contiguous. You have to have time to walk the whole field. If there are issues with the field, more time gives the home team more time to fix it, right? So let's get out on the field a little earlier and make that happen. We don't want to have to penalize home teams for fields if it's something that they can fix, right? Give them the opportunity to fix it. You have more time to talk to coaches, get your captains, right? You don't have to feel rushed. Sometimes when you get out there with only 20 minutes, you feel very rushed going through your pregame. Maybe coaches want to have a chat about a rules interpretation before the game. Well, you want to give them their answer, but you still have to give the other coach the same amount of time. And sometimes you start running into the pregame ceremonies with the anthem and the introductions. So give yourself as much time as possible. Professionalism. Be properly attired. We talked about uniforms already. Be properly attired. Do not be on your cell phone during the game. Don't run around the field with a cell phone in your pocket. If you have an issue where you need to have your phone available, bring a bag. Keep the phone in your bag at the table. Check it at halftime. You don't need to check it between quarters. Be courteous. Be respectful. And always support your crew. Right? We talk about this under game management. You don't know what your partner called on the other side of the field. But there are ways to say, I have no idea what he called. Or, Coach, I don't know what he called. I'll find out for you. Right? Be supportive, not just with your language, but with your tone. And then, of course, performance. Be physically able to perform the duties required. You know what you're physically capable of. If you're hurting, let us know. If you need to come off a game or two to heal up something that's sore, come off a game or two. It's not worth pushing through and risking half a season for yourself. We all end up with aches and pains during the year, and sometimes we just need to come off a game. It happens. It's okay. If you let Sal or Tom know you need to come off a couple of games, you're not going to get punished. Believe me. Be mentally prepared to officiate. That's why I say take time before you get there. Take time to get in the right frame of mind. Knowledgeable and consistent rules interpretation and administration. Right? Being consistent isn't just one game at a time, it's all season long. And then be in position. Right? Our mechanics give us guidelines of where we should be to make most of the right calls most of the time. Experienced officials will tell you sometimes those positions are terrible and you need to move to get into a better spot, to get a better look. Do what needs to be done for the good of the game. I don't see any questions. So I'm going to move on to this year's rule changes. And to that end, let me see here. I want to make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Everybody see 1.2.12D? Cool. All right, so this year's rule changes start with something that we down here have been doing for a while. Soft cones or pylons should be placed at the corner of the coach's area and the team area. So I'm going to turn the laser pointer on here. So over here and over here, right here and here, we've been placing cones there for a while to keep the players back in their team area. Now, we had a guy come from up north a year or two ago going, what is with this? What is with these cones? There's no more reason for 4 cones. And we tried to explain to him, well, this is why we do it, is to keep players back out of the coaches area and out of the table area, the timer area. And now NFHS has codified that and said, yep, we should actually have cones there. So now in addition to pylons, we need 4 cones at the table area so that the teams have a visible marker that says stay back, and we keep coaches back, and therefore we keep we keep coaches off the field. Avoids a lot of difficulties. Turn off that laser pointer, don't I? So for those of you who have been asking for years, mouth guards can now be white or clear. So there is no longer a restriction on color. Mouth guards may be completely white. Mouth guards may be completely clear. Unless you are a dentist, do not try to decide whether that clear mouthpiece is an Invisalign or a mouthpiece. Coach said he's wearing a mouthpiece. You see something in his mouth, we're good to go. Right? Looks like a mouth, could be a mouth guard. Good. We're not going around saying, oh, you've got a clear one. Let me see if it's an Invisalign. We're not doing that. Something they're phasing in all of their collision sports, like football. We're getting rid of attachments that don't serve a purpose other than decoration. So there's been a mouth guards that look like pacifiers with a ring on the front because they think it looks cool, or it has a strap that isn't attached. If it has a strap, it needs to be attached. Otherwise, it's purely decorative. So if it's a strap that can be attached, just have them attach the strap to their helmet. Right? Let's not make a thing out of it. If it's one of these on the bottom, this battle pacifier, well, that's not legal for play. If you catch that, preventive officiating says, hey, son, you can't play with that. You just don't do that. If they are playing with it, after it's a technical foul for an illegal mouth guard. We really don't want to have to call that foul. We want them to be wearing legal mouth guards. If you see one during pregame, address it with the head coach. Let him fix it. Horn accessibility at the table area. For years, the rule on a horn at the table was you needed a horn at the table or there had to be a working horn on the scoreboard. Now, there needs to be a working horn at the table or the one on the scoreboard must be activated from the table. Activated from the table is not calling on the phone to the press box and having them blow the horn. So if the scoreboard horn is activated exclusively from the press box, it does not meet the requirements for a horn at the table any longer. And this is because coaches have asked for double horns at the table because they wanted to question a call, and they did not get their double horn because the table didn't have one. And by the time they called up to the press box, the game had already restarted and the time for a double horn conference had expired. So they want to make sure there is the ability for the table to blow a horn when requested the next dead ball by a coach. So again, unless they've got a button at the table that activates the scoreboard horn, they must have a horn at the table. A reminder that if they don't have a scorebook, the timing device, a table, and a working horn, they are penalized with an illegal procedure before the start of the game. NFHS defines some game interruption procedures. They used to just leave it up to the states, but now they're saying that if a game is 3/4 finished, it's a legal game, assuming somebody has a higher score than the other and the game can't be completed on the same day. Florida has not weighed in on this change yet, but being we do not get to decide when games are official and games are not, and that's up to the schools and the administration. The more important part at the body, if we have a game that doesn't finish, we have to write a report to the state anyway. But we do need to give them all of the information at the bottom, where we were in the game. Where we were in the game, the score at the time, who had possession, where the ball was, if there were any time-serving fouls and how much time was left on those fouls. If someone had been removed from the contest, that's something that needs to be known so they don't re-enter the contest when it's resumed, if it's resumed. So clarifications for players facing off. We are allowed to adjust players when they go down for a face-off before we say set. Please disregard the fact that the face-off players in the picture here are using moto grips. It's USA Lacrosse's slide, not mine. So if we need to adjust players prior to saying set, we can. However, if the same face-off guy is constantly being repeatedly telling him to move this way, get your head out of the neutral zone, get your head out of the neutral zone, you can call him for delay and award the ball to the other team. So when you have your meetings with face-off guys, mention it. Guys, we're going to adjust you in the first quarter. By the second quarter, we're not. We're just going to look at you and say, we've told you twice, get up, let's go, we're going the other way. The first time you give the ball to their opponent, they're going to start listening. They changed the wording for goals scored. It now mirrors the NCAA rule, which is any loose ball that is behind the goal line. Used to be in high school that it had to pass through the plane of the front of the goal. It no longer does. Such that if a goalie pulled the ball back into his own net and dropped it behind the line, it was no goal in high school. It would be the offense's ball at GLE outside the box. Now, if the goalie drops the ball in his own net, it's a goal, which seems to make more sense. So that's a change. It probably will only happen in a middle school or a JV or a youth game. Probably not likely to happen in a varsity game because that goalie's probably getting yanked if it does happen. But be aware of it. It does make more sense. Loose balls is behind the goal line. It's a goal. Straightforward. Goal crease privileges have changed, right? We've, again, illegal eye black because this is not a high school player. They've changed the rule on defenders jumping into the crease. For the last several years, it's been a conduct foul the first time a player from a team jumps into the crease with the perceived intent of blocking a shot or acting like a goalkeeper. And then the second on that team would be a releasable unsportsmanlike conduct foul. That is no longer the case. The first time it happens, it is a personal foul for illegal equipment because he is not a legally equipped goalkeeper. It is a 1 minute non-releasable foul the first time it happens. So if the defender jumps in the crease and blocks a shot in the crease, it's a foul. If he blocks a shot above the crease, perfectly legal. But he takes one step backwards and he's in the crease, it's a 1 minute foul. And remember, that's a judgment call. Was his intent to block a shot? If he's running through the crease trying to play his guy and the shot hits him, that's a different story. You'll know if the guy's trying to block a shot or not. You guys have seen enough shots and what shot blocking looks like. But the first time it happens inside the crease, there's no grace of a conduct foul anymore. It's straight to a 1 minute non-releasable for illegal equipment. Goalies in high school no longer get 5 seconds to re-enter the crease. We have not heard whether this is going to bubble down to U14 or U12 from USA Lacrosse yet. However, in high school, 422(1)C was eliminated. Goalkeepers no longer get 5 seconds to return to the crease after they've left the crease. If, however, a goalie has an equipment issue and we've let play continue because he's not in a scrimmage area, and we end up with a dead ball, we have to provide enough time to have a properly equipped goalkeeper to restart play. So if a goalie comes out of the crease and loses his cross, we don't stop play for that. If the ball becomes dead for whatever reason, and the goalie is still outside of the crease without a cross, then yeah, we need to let him pick it up before we restart play. If his equipment is broken outside the crease, we don't stop play. But if the ball is dead, we need to let him fix his equipment and be a properly equipped goalkeeper before we restart play. They added some language to holding that says you can't hook, lift, or pin with the cross. And that's specifically to address problems with the crowbar technique that's being taught. Basically, a defender will come underneath the ball carrier's off elbow, lift it up in the air, which is perfectly legal, but then they'll drive their cross and either try and lift the guy up off the ground, they'll drive it towards his ribs and either lift the guy up off the ground or pin him to the ground. Those at minimum are a hold, right? You are allowed to hold with equal pressure, but if I pick you up, clearly I'm using more than equal pressure. So hook, lift, and pin further clarifies it's not really changing the definition of holding, it's just clarifying the definition of holding to make most of what happens on a violent crowbar illegal, and makes it easier to tell a coach, he lifted him, that made it a hold. But I saw it on Saturday. We're not using the Saturday rule book. So if a player gets lifted off his feet, it's probably a hold at minimum. So they added that language to clarify. One of the biggest changes we have now, this is to try to make this rule match the collegiate rule. If a player loses their helmet, it's an immediate kill. We've had that for years. But now it's an illegal procedure foul on the player who loses their helmet. So if a defender contacts an offensive player legally and the offensive player loses his lid, it's a turnover, right? Offense had possession, they get a technical foul, it's a turnover. If a defender comes in with legal contact but loses his lid, we kill play because he lost his lid in the scrimmage area, right? But it's also a 30-second foul for illegal procedure for losing your lid. Just sitting out for 2 whistles, which they still have to do, wasn't a sufficient deterrent to get kids to wear their helmets properly, to have their chin strap on their chin instead of under it or over their mouth, to not tighten it up in the back so that they could just slide it off whenever they wanted to. So now it's a foul. The second part here says, if it comes off as part of a play, I'm sorry, the second sentence, unless the official determines the helmet was dislodged due to direct contact. That is really an unnecessary statement. And the reason for that is if we had illegal contact, we would have a flag on the defender, and then the helmet comes off as a result of contact is a technical foul on the offense, which simply kills the flag down situation. But they put that language in the rule so that people didn't go, oh, we have simultaneous fouls and they both have to serve. That's why that language is in there. Even if the foul comes with indirect contact to the head, if you have a foul on the defense and that's what causes the helmet to come off, we're going to adjudicate the foul. The offensive team does not lose possession. They're going to retain possession because the flag indicates that that foul happened before the helmet came off. Ball location for restarts in the attacking area. There was a case where you could restart in the attack area following a penalty if the penalty occurred during a dead ball after a ball out of bounds on the end line. And they've now changed that. If you have a time-serving foul at any time, you cannot start in the goal area. The only time the offensive team can start with possession of the ball in the attack area is on an out-of-bounds play, whether it's a shot or just a regular out-of-bounds. That's the only time that the offense can start with the ball in the attack area is out of bounds on the end line. If there's a time-serving foul, you must move it to an alley. Like I said, in general, we always did move it to an alley, except in the situation where we would have a dead ball and the foul occurs on the dead ball. So they got rid of that exception. And now if we have a time-serving foul, we're starting in the alley. The couple editorial changes they put in this year's book. It is available on NFHS digital. FHSAA has not given rule books out to the associations yet. I have a message into Harrison asking when that's going to happen. But on page 101, they've now put in officially a new signal for contact to the head or neck. I mean, a lot of us have used the targeting one, but properly now we're supposed to do this. Tap your head on the side twice for contact to the head or neck. Defenseless player is the same signal, even though it may not have been contact to the head or neck, which I find difficult to explain. Why are you hitting your head if you said he's defenseless? Same signal, coach. That's just what it is. And then in Rule 419.1 on page 50 of the new rule book, they clarify that if a player jumps in the air, catches a pass, shoots, and then lands in the crease, it's no goal. That was an exception to the crease rule because we always said you had to, right, that a player who dove, shot, and landed in was no good. This was sort of a weird case where, well, so that's just a straight editorial change. Hold on a second here. There we go. Technical difficulties. Points of emphasis for 2026. Properly wearing equipment. Gee, we're going to see a lot of the same stuff we see every year. But properly wearing equipment includes eye shade, includes making sure that elbow pads are on elbows, not on triceps. A smart coach will ask for an equipment check, and you're going to have to enforce that if you don't mention it to the coaches during pregame. Hey, coach, I see a lot of your guys wearing their arm pads on their triceps. They need to be on their elbows. Sportsmanship and the role of a coach. So we're seeing coaches trying to officiate from the sideline. We need to rein that back in. Keep coaches in their coaches area. Keep them off the field of play. Keep them out of the substitution area. And then pregame responsibilities. We'll go over all of those in a subsequent session. But there's an emphasis on pregame responsibilities. So being out on the field 30 minutes before game time instead of 20 minutes before game time will really help you not feel rushed and make sure you get through all of your pregame responsibilities. Okay, cool. So that's questions on rules. We're going to take questions in a second. But first I want to get to some things about Arbiter. Right, so everybody should see Arbiter, right? Cool. All right. So please go into Arbiter, log into your association's section of Arbiter, and make sure your contact information, including your email, your phone, and your photo, are up to date. Make sure that your notification preferences are set. Make sure that you're sharing between all of your officiating organizations so that they know not to double schedule you, right? If you're a member of more than one association, you do more than one sport potentially. I know we have some guys who do flag football in addition to lacrosse in here. Let's make sure that we've got that taken care of. And then we're going to set travel limits. They're under blocks because you would want to block a game that was too far away. And we're going to go through how to do that. So first up, once you log into Arbiter, right, first thing you want to do is you want to mark yourself ready on the left-hand side. Over here, it's going to list all of your associations on the left-hand side. Make sure that you are available. If you're not checked ready, you won't get assigned. Now we're going to click on your photo in the top right-hand corner, which is going to pull up your profile. Profile looks like this, but it's probably got a better looking face. Right? You want to click on the 3 dots next to your phone number. Right? If it says make public, click make public. Otherwise, your partners can't text you. If it says make private, it's already public. You don't have to do anything. Make sure you have an emergency contact phone number. Click add a phone and put in an emergency contact phone. If you make it public, God forbid something happens to you on the field, we'll know who to call. It's happened before. We've had to use emergency contacts. Please have one in Arbiter. It's very important. And then select a reasonably current photo. This one's probably only 7 or 8 years old, but probably time to switch it out for something with a little more gray in the beard. But don't put your high school yearbook photo in there if you're my age or older. It's just not a good look. People won't recognize you when you show up for the pregame. Once you close your profile, if you go into settings on the settings tab and then preferences, go in and find your cell phone number and then check every one of the boxes on both your email and your cell phone number. Do not check any boxes or uncheck any boxes that are checked for your emergency contact, because you don't want your emergency contact being flooded with game reminders. But because you actually really do want to know when there's a game change, you get assigned, you get unassigned, right? So check all the boxes with your cell phone, check all the boxes with your email. I know sometimes it gets annoying to get as many notifications from Arbiter as we do, but it's the only way to stay up to date on your schedule. Now, at the bottom of that same page, make sure your time zone is set to Eastern time. If your time zone isn't set to Eastern time, you're going to see the wrong game time. And equally important, there's a date range 2 lines below that. Make sure that you have a date that's before today and is after this season ends. Mine set to 6/30/2026 to make sure that I see all my games between now and June. If those dates are wrong, it will inhibit your ability to see your games. And for those of you who are tech savvy and you want to connect your Arbiter schedule to your iCal or your Gmail calendar or your Outlook calendar, you can get an email with an iCal feed that is a read-only calendar, but a version of your calendar that updates in reasonably real time. You may have to update it manually a couple of times for something that's brand newly accepted, but it's a great way to keep your Arbiter calendar in your regular calendars. I happen to use it a lot, so that's a big help for people who are tech savvy. If you're not, you don't want to bother with it, no big deal. But if you do, that's where you pick that up. Also under settings on the sharing tab, right? You want to share all of your game information with all of your associations, right? You want your assigners to know when you're busy, so you don't get double scheduled, right? If you hide that information, you're going to end up getting double scheduled, and then you have to call one of those 2 assigners and say, dude, I screwed up. I'm double scheduled. You got to take me off a game. Making more work for an assigner is a good way not to get more assignments. So make it easy on the assigners. Let them know that you have a game somewhere else, so it's not a thing. I'm trying to keep everybody out of trouble with the assigners. It just makes life easier for everyone. So in my case, I share all of my information. I don't work for First Coast, except for the occasional tournament. So I don't share my schedule with them, but I share all my schedule here with the assigners from my other associations, so I don't get double scheduled. Then if you go to the blocks tab, you'll see a calendar first on the dates tab, but if you switch to the travel limits tab, right, you want to update availability and blocks, but travel limits are a big deal. You get a different travel limit for each day of the week. Most of us have regular work schedules, so you can put in that I know that if I'm working Monday through Friday, I'm going to be coming from my office. So I would check Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I would the zip code where my office is, as opposed to my home zip code, how far I'm willing to drive from work, and apply that. Remember, if you can't get out of work to do a 4 o'clock game, make sure that your day is blocked from 8 to 5 every day, right? If your hours at work are 8 to 5, make sure you're blocking 8 to 5 every day so that you don't get a 4 o'clock game and then have to turn it back because, oh, I'm still at work. If you block 8 to 5, it takes travel into account, so it won't give you a 5 o'clock game just because you've said I'm unavailable till 5. It will say, oh, you're available starting at 5. That's when you start your travel based on the mileage from the zip code you set to the zip code where you'll be officiating. But you can set a different travel limit for each day. If you're coming from your office, put that one in. If you're coming from home, put that zip code in on that day. It just makes it easy. You don't want to travel so much on the weekends. Totally understand. Put a shorter travel limit in. And believe it or not, I've exhausted our slides for this evening. So at this time, I will remove the mute restriction. You guys can unmute yourselves and ask any questions you like. If you have a question, just go ahead and unmute yourself and throw it out there. Don't all shout at once. Anybody? No questions?
When are we going to get paid?
Asks the guy who actually cuts the checks. Great. Just a reminder that TBLOA does do all of its payments through Arbiter Pay, so make sure your Arbiter Pay is properly set up. Anybody else have anything?
Hey, David, and just a reminder, since we got him here, your 1099 is an Arbiter. You will not receive a 1099 from TBLOA. It's in Arbiter.
Good point. So you will receive a 1099 from Arbiter for all associations who paid you via Arbiter Pay. Okay, well, I'm going to stay on if anybody has questions they don't want on the recording.